Ve'od yesh lomar, we can further say, binyan nedarim, concerning the concept of oaths. Ta'kush yelo daich u'masher asra Torah, that the question, it's not enough, this that the Torah forbade you. You have to go and forbid other things. Why should you make nedarim? Shmona prakim la Rambam, so Perek Daled, it's brought in the Rambam's Haktama to Perkei Avos of the Shmona prakim, and the end, I guess, the end of Perek Daled of Miyad Yerushalmi, Perek Test in Nedarim. Yeah, that's the Makor that the Rambam brings from. Hari Amru ma im hanazir shlot siiris atzmo ela min hayayin. And they said this, that the Nazir only pained himself from wine. Nikra kadosh, he's called holy. Hamitzares atzmo. May call davar, somebody who pains themselves from everything. Ratzalomar hayoshev b'tainis, that is to say, somebody who fasts. That's the meaning. They're removing everything from their pleasure. Al achas kama v'kama, how much more so they will be called holy. Perekama the tiny stuff Yudalef and Madalef. So which one is it? Is it that you become holy, or do we say that it's not enough that the Torah forbade you? You're going and forbidding other things. Elan Noda, rather it's known Ki al Yidei Torah mitzvos mamshich im yichud vavkei, that through the Torah mitzvos we draw down a unity of the name Vavkei. But in order to draw down a higher level, a higher unity of the name Yud-Kei, this is through having the self-sacrifice when you say Echad in Kriyat Shema. So mitzvos are the Vav-Kei, and the Yichud Kriyat Shema is the Yud-Kei. And this is the idea that you first have to accept upon yourself the yoke of heaven before you bebechinas rotzo, in a concept of going upwards, and afterwards you receive upon yourself the yoke of mitzvah. So first you go up to Yud-Kei, and then you bring it down to Vav-Kei, in Shman, and then V'haya, which is a Kabbalah Sol mitzvah. So Shuv, and returning, so that's Ratzah V'Shuv. Like it's brought about this idea, an explanation on the verse. And then I will be holy in sight of the sons of Israel. But through the oath that a person gives themselves pain, and removes themselves from something permissible. Through this you awaken and draw down from Bina. So that's higher than the Vavkei of Hashem's name. It's the Heilah, the higher Hey of Hashem's name. So that's from the concept of that the hidden ones, the hidden things are La Hashem Elokeinu, the Yud-Kei, which is higher than the revealed things, or Lanu Lvanenu, the Vav-Kei, Nigalos Chulu, Kanal Sif Yud Aleph. So the concept of the netter is similar to the idea of the mitzvah Salosase, that draws down from the Yud-Kei of Hashem's name. Like it's brought in the Mamar of Vahi B'Shalach, and this is what it says: that in every moment that a person pushes away the desires of the body, and draws their heart close to the service of Hashem, this is the concept of self-sacrifice. Because what do I care if it's half killed or completely killed? So once you're pushing away the desires of the body, so that's a katla palga. So it's like a half death. So that's enough to get close to Hashem because we don't make any distinction between a full death and a half death. We can further say that it's like it's brought in Zohar concerning the idea of to work it and to guard it, that through going away from bad, this fixes the feminine aspect, and through the positive commandments of doing good, so that fixes the masculine aspect of Ziranpin. So in this context, it seems to imply that the positive is higher and is gives amshacha downwards to the negative commandments, whereas before we were saying the idea of Yud K being higher. And that's the difference between La'ovdeo L'Shamra. L'Shamra is for the Nukva, that the Nukva needs to be guarded from the external forces, like the concept of the guarded matzah and the night that needs to be guarded, because the concept of the nighttime is the feminine. So the night of Pesach is a feminine concept. Leil shimurim, that needs to be guarded. Kila Pesach chatas v'oved, because the entrance, the sin crouches. So that's, I guess, the entrance is like the door, which is like Malchus. To enter into the rest of the yichud above, into the world. So that's the lowest level. It's like the door, like the Traledarta, the door of the Yiras Hashem, which is the entrance way to the building. And look what it's brought about the idea, but all your sons, concerning, don't call them your sons, call them your builders. And this guarding is the idea of l'shamra, to guard it, that through a person going away from bad, so that the sins won't separate from you from above, and through a person guarding themselves and separating themselves from sin, v'hara, and bad, through this you have the rectification of the concept of the feminine aspect of Malchus. That's called the lower Shechina. So it's a concept of elevating the Shechina in Galus. Shikli lebichin is a Vav, which is the vessel to the Vav, Shu Inyan Kadosh Bevav, which is the idea of Kadosh that has a Vav, that there's Kodesh in Kadosh. Kodesh is the Shorish, and Vav is as in Kadosh, as it's drawn down into Malchus. A glimmer and drawing down from the infinite may be blessed, to come down into the divinity that fills creation, the divinity beyond creation, the Mamale and Sovev. So too, similarly, is the idea of the rectification, of fixing the idea of the higher Shechina, the higher divine presence. It's a vessel to not for Kadosh, but for Kodesh, from the source of the holiness. So Kadosh Bevav is like the idea of the Midos, going into Malchus, and the concept of Kodesh is the concept of Chochmai Law, coming into Bina, the Hey Law. So the Bina, which is the Shechinta Ilah, is, so we're talking about Yichud Kudshubrichu Shechinte. We talk about the Yichud of the Kodesh and the Shechina. So if you have the Yichud Kudshubrichu Shechinte of the Vav and the Hey, so that's Kadosh and Shechinta Tata, and then you have the Yichud of the Shechinta Ilah and the Kodesh. So Kli Lagila Bechinas Kodesh Elyon Shalamayla Bechinas Kodesh Bava Vahinu Lebechinas Chachmei, that is to the supernal wisdom Gamiskalus Atika Kadisha Hubebina Nikra Olam Haba, and also in the hay itself, the revelation of Atik from Keser is in Bina, that's called the world to come. And this is through removing oneself from the permissibility, from things that are permissible, things that are not necessary. That the things that are permissible is also from the klipas noga. And in comparison to this revelation, even klipas noga is called the hiding. Like the idea of that around him there are hairs, meaning to say that there's much more scrutiny as you go higher. Like it says, we're going to give meat from a high level. You can't eat meat. That the meat, even after it's purified, is not fitting to the high level of Moshe. And what are we? The concept of Chochmei law. And even the oath is similar to the idea of the world to come. Bina, there's no eating, there's no drinking. Basrei, lav, that in his place, it's not his way to eat, like Moshe Rabbeinu on the mountain. But according to this, it needs to be understood why it's said that the eating on Shabbos is higher than the neder. If the concept of the neder, to remove yourself from eating, is like the idea that you're going beyond the levels that you cannot purify, like the meat. So why do we say that the eating on Shabbos is higher than the eating is higher than the neder of removing oneself from eating? And similarly is brought in the Siddur and the Mamar concerning the Milah and the Priya. Avraham Avinu lo nitna mitzvahs Priya. Avram Avinu did not have the mitzvah Priya. Kim achar kach nitzavu ala Priya. It's only afterwards Bnei Israel were commanded to do the Priya. Gam Kain, or according to the Zohar, Yitzchak. Not Yishmael. Gam Kain lefishek in the end of Parshas Vaydaber. Because when you want to have a higher revelation, then the skin of the priya, which is a thinner klippa, also hides, like he said before about the klippas noga, that hides when you want to have the revelation from the olam haba, the bina ilah. But I mehem the pasha mishpatim davkuf tezvav sofamud beis. That a sun and its sheath is the name of Havaya and Elokim. And certainly the concept of Bina, the world to come, is higher than the level of the concept of the sun, of Shem Havaya, which is the middle pole, which, Yaakov, which is Tiferes. The concept of, in general, the concept of Ziranpin is going to be lower than Bina, which is the Shemesh, in comparison to its sheath, which I guess would be the Shmira of Malchus, of Elokim. And in that context, the Malchus itself is the Shomer, I guess. Vayim bezoar Parshas Emor daf kuf amud beis binyan Yom Kippurim butzina ilad nar lebutzina tata. Look in Zohar Emor where it talks about Yom Kippur, that the higher light, the higher candle, shines to the lower candle. Maybe like the sun shining to the moon. And from this day, from the higher light, we're shining from a higher level. not from the light of the sun. So it's from the light of Bina. So too we can say about the concept of the oaths, because the concept of the oath is made up of the words nun and dwelling. That is to say, the 50 gates of Bina, like the idea of 50 days from Pesach to Atzeres. That through this we draw down from the 50th gate of Bina, and drawing this down into Zon Nukva, with the crown that his mother crowned him, I guess the crown of Bina. The Chshar HaChamishim over Zon Nukva. It's the concept of the Nadarim, so that's similar to the idea of Shavuos after Pesach. So if you have a Yichud Zun on Shvi Shel Pesach, or you have the birth in Shvi Shel Pesach. But at any rate, so you have the Hamshacha of Atara Shitra Lo'ima, which is the wedding of Shavuos. So you draw down through the neder from Bina that it should dwell in Zon Nukva. That's Kamosh Kaz Bezor Emor Daf Tzadik Zayin Amud Beis v'Daf Tzadik Ches Amud Beis Kamokin Al Yidei Neder Mamshich Ma'Bina Shetiyeh Dara Bezon V'chein Isa B'Pardes Erech Neder. So too it says in Pardes. And concerning the neder, this is what it says. So to Rabbi Moshe explained that the language of neder is from lashon dar, for to dwell, nun dar, that the nun dwells, shihidara alai kef, that it dwells the makif. So to neder is from the language of freedom, and freedom again, and since the neder hints to the existence of the level of bina, to give flow and to shadow over the children. So that's why it says it's as if you're making an oath on the life of the king, which is the bina. Pirish melech tiferes. What is Chaye HaMelech? The Melech itself refers to Tiferes. Chaye, and the Chaye HaMelech, the life of the king, Habina, that refers to Bina that's higher than it. Hasocheches olav v'mechaye u'adkan l'shono, that surrounds it and gives it life. V'chein mevur b'biur yoser b'bechaye Parshas Matos. So to it's explained further in Bechaye, in Parshas Matos v'zel l'shono, and this is what he says. V'al who ishki dor neder l'Hashem, and this is what it is that it says. V'al derech hakasuv ishki dor neder l'Hashem, when a man makes an oath to Hashem, neder melashon dira l'Hashem. A neder is from the language of dwelling to Hashem. Udira shel olam eloki shebebreshis. It's the dwelling of the divine of Breshis, Shebara Esa Olam, that created the world, Vashiva Netzali Misham, and the seven emanated, or from there, I guess, the Midos and Malchus. V'amakayim Nidro, and somebody who fulfills the oath, Daito Shumamin B'osodira, his opinion is that he believes in that dwelling, Shekeshitosh of Nishmaso Misham, that when his Neshama returns over there to that dwelling, to I guess to the level of Bina. Over al haneder, and somebody who goes over this oath that they made, whom Muser Osodira, he's giving over from that level it's a blemish, I guess, so to speak. He's giving over life from that level to the klippas, I guess. V'zeu lashon neder, and this is the idea of neder shemashma'us ukvias dira, that it's implied a set dwelling, v'asaras dira, to make a set dwelling and to take away a dwelling. I guess it's to build and to destroy a house or a place to live, whether you keep or go over the neder. V'chein lashon nishba, so to the concept of a shvua, ki hamekayim shvua, so nichnos ba'osan hashiva, because a person who fulfills their oath, they go into those 7 midos from bina. And somebody who goes over them is taken away from them. So I guess the same thing would be musar me'osudira. That's the concept of being, so to speak, evicted from that dwelling place, is you're over the neder. You're taken away from the dira. So to the shiva, to be taken, musar mehem, you're taken away from the shiva if you're over the shvua. The Inyan Perish Dira Hashem, and the concept of a dwelling place for Hashem, Yuvan al derech mashakos, ubetorah or bedibur amaschil hashamayim kisi, can be understood what's brought in Torah or about the heavens are my throne, binyan ezabayis asher tivnuli, concerning which house will you build for me? Uba'abir sham, and the explanation there, Vayin b'medrash Rabbah Parshas Truma, and look in Medrash Rabbah and Truma, so Parsha Lamadalar, Begamar Perakama de Brachos, Taf Zayin Amar Aleph, Al Pasuk Visimachtim Bevis Tfilasi, concerning, and you'll make me rejoice in the house of my prayer. Tfilasim lo nemar ela tfilasi, it doesn't say their prayer, rather it says my prayer. Mekan Shakodesh Baruch Hu Mispalel, from here we learn that the Holy One, blessed be He, prays. It's his house of his prayer, the Beis HaMikdash is his prayer, so to speak. Umarsha b'chichadushi agadu sham, and the Marsha explains there, Perushu hamikdash lamayla, that is to say the mikdash above, amechuv neged mikdash lamata, that corresponds with the mikdash below. And we can say, similar to what the party says, Yerushalayim shalmata zeu malchus, that Yerushalayim below, that's Malchus, Yerushalayim Shel Maila Zeu Bina, and Yerushalayim above, that's Bina. So again, you have this idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mispalel in the Dira Lamaila, the Mikdash Lamaila. So again, the Neder, which is the Dira, corresponds with the Beis HaMikdash Shel Maila, whereas the Mikdash Shel Mata corresponds with Malchus. Vahinu Heichel Kodesh Kodashim Teatzilos. And that is the Holy of Holies of the world of Atzilus, V'zewanikra, based Tfilasi Chulu, that Bina of Atzilus, the Mochin of the world of Atzilus, or the Kodesh Kodashim, and that's what's called the house of my prayer, and so forth. Chulu, Vayin Bemed Eshtilim Simin Al Pasuk, Hashem mi Yagur Ba'olecha Chulu, on the verse, Hashem who will dwell in your tents. Achim kol zeh, however, with all this, hachacham matiris haneder, the wise, the sage, permits the neder, ki haneder zeu al derech smol doche, because the neder is the idea of the left pushing away, v'zeu al yidei habina, and this is through bina, shimikav hasmol, which is from the left side, well al yidei chachma shilamayla me'abina, but through wisdom, which is higher than Bina, Sharei Shara Chamishim Hu Adayin Mimutza Bin Chachma, because the 50th gate is still this in between Chachma and Nikra Ainu Bin Habina, which is called the Ayin, the Not, and Bina Nikra Yesh, which is called the something. So the Shara Chamishim is a gate between Chachma and Bina. K'moshekos B'Likutei Torah Gabi Shvus B'Bir Me'at Al Pasukos Sefartim Lachem, like on the explanation of, and you shall count, U'B'Chachmas B'Riru, and with wisdom you will purify, and you can purify the klipas noga, like we said. So maybe this is again like the idea of the achila of Shabbos, that you can elevate the klipas noga instead of staying away from it with a neder. That you can elevate the food from klipas noga so much to the point where it won't hide at all on the revelation of Yud Kei, of the Nistaros. And like we find the idea of eating, which is an atonement, like by the korban, where the kohanim eat, the korban chatas, and the people who brought the korban are atoned for, and it's born in another place. It's explained that this is the eating of man, which is higher than the eating of the altar, which is the line that eats the sacrifices, birban, which is the concept of birban. That's the Achilas Mizbeach. Achilas Adam, but the eating of man, which is the Kohanim, Birur Machul, which is the higher purification than purification of Ma, Ef Shalom al Derech Yochanan ben Gudgada, Haya Ochel al Taras HaKodesh Kol Yomov, like the idea that Yochanan ben Gudgada would eat on the purity of holiness all his days, even outside the base of Mikdash and so forth. In Kain Kivin Achilaso al Derech Achilas HaKodesh. So he intended his eating to be like the eating of holiness. So this kind of eating in the way of holiness is higher than the removal of oneself from the physicality and the oath to stay away. To this, you draw down into the concept of man, to have the infinite, maybe blessed, drawn down into the concept of Adam, of the three sides. I guess from Chachma, Adam, that's the concept of eating of man. I guess from Chachma, like the concept of eat the friends above. The friends above are Chachma Bina, and their Achila is the Hamshacha from Ein Sof into Chachma Bina, I guess. Downwards, valid is in Mam, Shich B'zah, Mebichina Savachach, Matichya, and through this, you draw down into Zeran, Bin from Chachma, that gives life, Shalamayla, Filamachim, Debina Cholu, that's even higher than the life of Bina, like he said before, that was Chaya Melech, the life of the king, Vodzos, Ki Alidei Neder, and further, that through the oath, Hare Alai Bina, Hare Alai, upon, I accept upon myself, such and such, that's the Bina, Rakma Kefes, Fizocheches al Zachulu, that only encompasses and covers over Zeranpin, like he brought before, the sukkah of the Dira, the Makif of Neder. V'dukmas al Yidei Losasei, and this is comparable to how through the negative commandments, Eina Or Meir Ba'Kli Mamash, the light does not actually shine in the vessel, because it's an or makif and it's not an or nikli, like a mitzvah to say. But when you permit the vow, and you have a higher level of eating, the eating of the supernal man, you're able to draw down the light from wisdom and understanding of Chachma Bina and an inner light of Zan Nukva. So it's a higher level when you're eating al Taras HaKodesh, and like the eating on Shabbos, and you should eat, and you should call to Shabbos pleasure. Eidin Nahargan Chulu, that the Rashei was the Eidin Nahargan, the garden, the river, the Eidin, the river, the garden. So it's from the highest pleasure. So the Gan is Bina, but here we're drawing down from Eidin, from Chachma, into the Gan, I guess might be Malchus, the Nar is Bina. Now the river that comes out from Eden, it's called Yuval. Zeu Sharach HaMishim, or Yovel, like the concept of Bina, which is the 50th gate of Bina, Visham, Shorosh HaNeder Canal, and there is the source of the oath of the Neder of Ala Chachma, he Eden Atzmo, but the Chachma corresponds with not the river, but the Eden itself, Be'eden Mikedem, the concept of from Eden from before, higher than the concept of that the river goes out. And on Shabbos, we draw down from the level of pleasure. Mamshich, Bechinas Eden Gam, can we draw down also from Eden? So you can understand the idea of that the sage permits the neder. Because he's chacham, from the level of chachma, when he permits the neder, so he's drawing down from higher, and that's like the idea that the spring comes out from the house of Hashem, and waters and purifies. So the spring that comes out from the house of Hashem is, I guess, like the Chachma. That's the Nekuda Beichala. It's the dot of Chachma within Bina that purifies, that's higher than Bina. So it purifies, like he brought before, all the taivos of the shitim, and can purify the klippos noga, and elevate the things that are usually forbidden, the taivos. Which is not the case with the river that comes out. It says about it that from there it separates. Finally, look in this Mamar, the end of Sifei.